Hello guys, and welcome to WARNO. I'm Vulcan, and today I'm going to be taking you through everything WARNO has to offer. Whether you are looking to buy or you've just bought the game and want to get started, this video will have everything you need to know. So once you start up WARNO, this is the screen that you will be presented with. The first thing I'd recommend to do is jump into the solo tab and click on tutorials. The tutorials in this game are very good, and they'll take you through everything you need to know in WARNO.
You have selected your first unit. Let's check out the unit's information panel. The left part of the panel displays general information about the unit.
Even if you are a strategy veteran or you've played other games by Eugen Systems in the past, I definitely recommend brushing up on your skills in the tutorials, relearning the basics, and being introduced to new mechanics that WARNO has to offer. The other tutorials that are super important are the Army General tutorials. Army General is the name of the campaigns in this game, and these will teach you the mechanics that you'll need to take that on.
Army General lets you command Cold War era military formations on a massive strategic scale. Each unit pawn is the size of a battalion or equivalent. 1 day corresponds to 5 turns.
So definitely worth jumping into the tutorials. Next up, we do have the Army General tab, which includes 5 campaigns. We have Broederkrieg, Folder Gap, Airborne Assault, The Left Hook, and Highway 66. Army General is a great feature in WARNO, which you can play solo, co-op, or versus. The way it works is you have an overarching meta game where you move around pips on a massive strategic map. And then when you engage the enemy, you can jump into that battle and play it out at a tactical level. Dependent on how you set up the battle, you will have different units available to play with during the tactical battle. It's loads of fun, and I'll show it off more later. They vary in duration. You can see that the Broederkrieg campaign is a short duration, whilst Highway 66 is very long. And Highway 66 is huge in scale. You have a lot of units to control, so don't underestimate it. It will take you some time to complete, and yeah, I hope you have a lot of fun trying to do that one. Moving on, we have Skirmish. Skirmish allows you to play against AI. You can also have AI on your own team. There is multiple difficulty levels for you to challenge yourself with. We have very easy all the way up to hardest. And you can see there that the AI greatly favors attack, has 100% more income, and units 50% lower upkeep cost. That is a huge advantage that even I can struggle to deal with. So yeah, play against the AI at your heart's content. See if you can beat the hardest AI eventually. Next up, we have Operations. Operations are fantastic, sort of shorter missions that are individual and have their own stories that are really fun to play to kind of test your ability. Now, Operations is kind of the second place I would say to go after completing the tutorials, because they present you with different challenges that will really help you kind of practice the skills that you've just learnt in the tutorials. And you can start off on rookie difficulty, work your way up to completing them all on elite. You'll have plenty of fun, and already between the tutorials and the operations, you're already going to be playing this game for 8 to 10 hours. And then when you start jumping into the Army General, these can be taking anywhere from like 10 to 50 hours a piece, depending on how fast you are at playing the game. Finally, there's the load tab, and you might think, oh, why are you pointing out the load tab? Well, this is a great tip that I really wanted to get out towards the beginning of this video, and that is replays. So replays are a fantastic tool for learning the game. You can get replays from Army General skirmishes, you can get replays from normal skirmishes against AI, you can get replays from your multiplayer games, which is what you can see mostly here from me. And these are great learning tools for seeing maybe where you went wrong, what the enemy did to beat you, and you can jump in, zoom into all of the units and admire their great detail. It's something that's absolutely fantastic and definitely worth doing. And that's the basics for the single player. Later in this video, I'll take a deeper dive into the tutorials, operations, strategic campaigns, and skirmish mode. But for now, let's jump over to the armory. The armory is a fantastic tool in WARNO, and it's going to be a place where you spend a lot of time if you're going to play in skirmish or multiplayer. Here you can find access to all 948 units and their statistics. This can be very overwhelming if you're new to these types of games or even just new to WARNO. There's a ton to learn here, but you can take your time with it. You don't have to know it all at once, especially if your plan is to jump into either operations or army general. But let me just take you through the basic statistics on the right hand side here. They vary based on the type of unit, but I'm just going to go through the TATB so you can get a general understanding of the unit card. So on the top left we have the unit cost, then we have the type of the vehicle, we have the unit cost, then we have the armor values, so it has 17 front armor, 6 side armor, 4 rear armor, and 3 top armor. We have the gun. We also have the different traits for this gun. So this gun has an autoloader, and if you read the tooltip, basically what that means is it cannot have its rate of fire reduced by stress. It has access to high explosive, and it also has kinetic rounds. It has penetration of 19, its HE damage is 1.25, it has 169 suppression, higher value is better. We have 2,275 meters range, which is the longest range that a tank can have. We have accuracy of 60% when it's static and 50% on the move. Our rate of fire for this tank is 10 rounds per minute with an aiming time of 3 seconds. The reload time is 6 seconds per shot, and the salvo length is 34. The reason it says 34 in this case is because the tank will continuously fire every 6 seconds until it runs out of ammo, and it has 34 rounds. And the supply cost is 408, which is the cost for, I think, its entire ammunition. So if it uses up all 34 rounds, then it will cost 408 supply in order to fully replenish it. On the bottom we have the health of the unit, so in this case 10. We have its optics, which basically tells you how good it is at spotting things. Its stealth, which is how easy it is to spot, if it's amphibious or not. Its off-road speed, its on-road speed, its autonomy, so how far it can go before it runs out of fuel, its total fuel, which if a higher value basically means it takes more supply to refuel it, and then whether or not something can advance deploy. And at the bottom in the armory you can also see what each unit belongs to. So the TATB is available in the 39th Guards, the 79th Guards, and the 6th Motorstrelki. The weapon stats are somewhat similar for different vehicles. They might vary based on the type of unit, or if it's like an infantry, for example. But that should give you a general gist so that you can look at these stats at a glance and somewhat understand them. A great tip if you're struggling is to make sure that you hover over everything in this game. There are so many tooltips that will appear whilst you are mousing over certain objects. Now my recommendation for getting started in WARNO is to make a battle group. Just one battle group, pick whichever one takes your fancy. If you like American units, pick an American division. If you like German units, pick a German division. If you want to play with the pack forces, maybe pick a Soviet division. Just choose whatever one you want and then try and put together a deck, and this will kind of break it down for you in a much more bite-sized way. So for example, in this case, when we're building a 1st UK Armoured Division battle group, it gives us different tabs, and we have to fill out these tabs in order to meet 50 activation points. You can see the activation points listed at the top. So the first card here will cost us 1 activation point, the second one also 1, then the third will cost 2. And that will increase as we add more cards, and you'll see that this varies per tab. So for example, if I want to add a Bedford supply, that's going to take 1 activation point from the battle group. I'll add a Stolly. That will take another activation point. Then I might want to add some command, so that will take up another 2. You'll want to go through all of the tabs until you end up with a battle group that looks something like this. Now if you're struggling or it's a bit overwhelming first time around, feel free to jump back into the battle group and click autofill to fill the rest of your tabs automatically. There are also a number of presets that you will be able to use in skirmish and multiplayer to get you started. And this is primarily the main use of battle groups, skirmish and multiplayer. Other game modes like operations and army general will have preset units. Just a quick tip, if you're going to make yourself a battle group, make sure to add at least 6 command units. These are symbolized by a star in a circle next to the unit's name, and in skirmish and multiplayer are used to capture sectors. Once you've done the tutorials in the single player, maybe explored the armory and set up some battle groups, you can now finally jump into multiplayer. Multiplayer is very competitive in this game, and I wouldn't recommend jumping into it unless you have some experience beating at least medium AI in skirmish. Once you've achieved this, my next recommendation would be jumping into 10 versus 10 PvP multiplayer. Now it might sound a bit overwhelming, there being 10 players on each side, but the reason I recommend 10 versus 10 is because with there being 10 people on the map, you overall have less responsibility of said map. You may notice on my build that there are no players in any of the lobbies and the player count is low. I just want to let you know that I am on a pre-release build, and when the game releases you should have no problems whatsoever finding yourself a 10 versus 10 game. There are 2 ways where you can join a 10 versus 10 lobby. The one that I like to do is order by players and then select the lobby with the most people in it. The other way you can do it is selecting one of these 2 buttons on the top left to enter either a normal 10 versus 10 server or a 10v10 tactical server. Tactical just means you have less points and less income throughout the game, meaning that you have to be more tactical with the smaller amount of units that you have access to. You can also create lobbies up to 4 versus 4, and this is also where you're going to be able to play Army General in both co-op and versus mode. Finally, there is ranked mode, where you can select a battle group and dive straight in to the ranked queue. And this is not something that I would recommend for beginners, but as you become more confident in the game and your own ability, feel free to give it a go. Matchmaking will do its best to put you against someone of a similar skill level. Now that's a basic look at most of what is available in WARNO, but as you can see we do have a mod center as well. Mods can be found by clicking browse. It will take you to the Steam workshop where there are already mods that people have made during early access. Modding in WARNO will get better over time, as Eugen Systems has said that they are going to add the ability to import your own models into the game and also your own Army General campaigns, which means that we could see some really exciting mods in the future. A couple mods that I've already got my eye on are the Nuke mod and the Zombie mod. People can get really creative with this stuff. Another thing I wanted to touch on was the 2 buttons at the bottom. The first is the personal profile. This will show you your player level, how much experience you have, how much time you've played, how many games you've played, even with each division, what your victory ratio is, and so on and so forth. There's loads of information in there that you can keep track of. The other thing I wanted to mention that's actually pretty important is the options. Now, the options in WARNO are incredibly thorough. There is a lot to go through in both the gameplay and interface tabs. You can also, of course, set up your controls and learn the controls from the options here. You have the ability to change your audio levels, your video options, there's the privacy policy and the credits. But I would say that the two most important tabs after, of course, setting up your audio and video settings are the gameplay and interface tabs, because these give you so many different options for how you play the game. Now, all of these rules of engagement, it will take you a little while to learn them, but you can change them in game. So once you kind of learn some of the mechanics, this will make a lot more sense and you can tailor them exactly as you like. But if you just want to copy mine, that is fine too. In the interface options, very much a similar case where you'll probably want to just jump into a skirmish, pause it, and go through each of the options and see what they do. Ones that I would recommend keeping on is like 3D unit scaling. What this does is when you're zoomed out, the units will appear bigger than they actually are so that you can see them better. It's not only nicer visually, so you can kind of see what the unit looks like, but it also can help with things like facing your tanks in the right direction or making sure that your tanks are facing in the right direction when engaging enemy targets. It will also allow you to spot or see what other enemy units are doing better. You almost always want to keep the minimap on, for example. One that I personally like is turning off the aggregation. This is going to really depend on how you play the game, but as a veteran of Eugen Systems games, don't aggregate is my option in this case. But that's going to be up to you as you continue to play. It's certainly worth coming back to every now and then, especially when you start to learn the mechanics of WARNO and then can understand what these options mean. So now we've looked at pretty much everything that WARNO has to offer, I'm going to dive into one of the tutorials and we'll be able to have a look at exactly how they work.
Before we begin, let's take a moment to get used to the camera controls. Move the camera to the objective marker, find your unit, and left-click to select it.
Here we are in the game, and we can see the information regarding the tutorial on the left. We've got to use the arrow keys or the WASD keys on the keyboard to move the camera. Vertical movement, you can use W and S keys while holding control to move the camera up and down on a vertical axis. You can also scroll wheel, and it will move the camera towards your aim point. You can hold the middle mouse button to rotate, and you can also rotate while holding control and A and D. Once you get used to those controls, we'll zoom over to the Saber 6 and left click to select.
This is Saber 6. Actual comm check complete. Over. Hearing you loud and clear, sir. War is about to kick off, and we suffer a flat tire. Our escort back to the staging area is waiting nearby, sir.
You have selected your first unit. Let's check out the unit's information panel. The left part of the panel displays general information about the unit. The central part is dedicated to the unit's rules of engagement, a concept that will be covered in a later tutorial. The right part of the panel is dedicated to the unit's weapon loadout. Clicking on the name of the unit will open an even more detailed unit panel. You can also access it by pressing the I key. An escort is waiting. Move the command unit by right-clicking near the friendly troop transports.
Let's head over to the other unit here, our escort. So by right-clicking, we're going to be doing a standard move command. If you want to see your commands in action, zoom out, hold shift on the units that have orders, and you will see the line in this case representing a move order.
Your new unit is a military police squad transported by an unarmored jeep. Here's the main label that displays several details. In the center, the icon of the unit, which uses either RTS or NATO symbols. At the top left, if any additional unit is carried, the icon of the transported unit is displayed. On the right, the unit's experience. Here, the 2 chevrons mean that the unit is veteran. This represents the price range of the unit. Here, the red triangle means that the transport vehicle is of low price. And finally, the name of the transported unit.
All right. Our staging area is further up the road. No time to waste, sir.
You can find the orders menu on the right-hand side of the interface. Hover your cursor above each option to find out what they do.
You see in the bottom right, hovering over gives us those tooltips I talked about earlier, and it also gives you the hotkey for those particular orders. Learning the hotkeys in this game is really, really useful and will help you out massively as you continue to play WARNO.
Receive loud and clear.
So let's use a fast move command to zip up this road by pressing F and left clicking on the map. My troops here are going to use the road to get to their location, which will use their on-road speed of 108 kilometers per hour in this case.
We made it. Now let's figure out what the hell is happening. And get the troops to Redcon 1. Over and out.
As you can see, the tutorials are very good, very thorough, and well written, I would say. And so definitely worth doing those first of all. Let's now have a deeper look into Army General. I'm going to select the Bruderkrieg campaign on Elite difficulty, and I'm going to switch over to the Warsaw Pact side, since in this campaign they go first.
June 20th, 1989, Germany. The strategic Warsaw Pact's offensive across the inner German border has taken NATO largely by surprise. Facing NATO's CENTAG, the Soviet 8th Guards Army begins its multi-pronged attack at 5 o'clock. The objective is Frankfurt am Main, home to the 5th Corps, a key military target and transport hub. At the frontier, the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, with a few isolated battalions, put up fierce resistance for hours. Overwhelming firepower ultimately results in a Soviet breakthrough at Fulda. The armored vanguard surges to Frankfurt. Further north, the flank of the main invasion is assigned to the East German 4th Motorisierte Schützen Division. They advance on Bad Hersfeld. The National Volksarmee aims to press further and seize Asfeld, establishing a covering force. This would protect the Warsaw Pact's axis of attack against any counterstrikes from the Bundeswehr's 5th Panzer Division. NATO has an early chance to disrupt the Soviet thrust on Frankfurt. Warsaw Pact's capture of Asfeld becomes paramount. A series of pitched battles await.
Die 4. Motorisierte Schützendivision hat den Auftrag, die Nordflanke der Offensive des sozialistischen Kollektivs auf Frankfurt zu sichern. Durch die Einnahme von Alsfeld können wir potenzielle Gegenangriffe der 5. Panzerdivision der Bundeswehr abwehren. Uns stehen 2 gepanzerte Brigaden gegenüber. Diese müssen so lange wie möglich aufgehalten werden. In 3 Tagen kann die sowjetische 8. Gardearmee zusätzliche Panzer- und Artilleriekräfte freisetzen. Diese frischen Truppen ermöglichen den Vormarsch in Richtung Marburg. Major Müller?
Vielen Dank, Genosse Generalmajor. Unser erstes Angriffsziel ist Bad Hersfeld, gehalten von der 3. Schwadron des 11. ACR. Wir haben die zahlenmäßige Überlegenheit und das Überraschungsmoment. Es ist von entscheidender Bedeutung, dass wir alle Versorgungsrouten auf Alsfeld abschneiden, um so das Ausweichen der amerikanischen Panzer zu verhindern. Alsfeld wird nur von westdeutschen Reservisten mit geringem Einsatzwert verteidigt. Es wird erwartet, dass die Bundeswehr mindestens 24 Stunden benötigt, um eine Panzerbrigade gegen uns ins Feld zu führen. Je früher wir Alsfeld nehmen, umso besser können wir Angriffe abschlagen. Halten Sie die Stadt bis zum 23. Viel Glück, Genosse General. Genosse General, der schwer gepanzerte amerikanische Kampfverband, der in Bad Hersfeld verteidigt, mag zwar beeindruckend sein, aber nicht unverwundbar. Wiederholte Angriffswellen sollten den Widerstand brechen.
As you can see, the introduction to the campaign is very cool, and the voiceovers have been improved massively since early access. Here we are in the campaign, and you can see that we have a nice strategic map, and we have all of our units that we can move on this map using these squares, and then based on where we put them, we can engage this enemy unit. So this is the remainder of the 11th ACR. I believe prior to this battle, the 11th ACR has already been engaged before, so they are in a retreated position already. But what we're going to do is we're going to move up my units into position so that we can take this on. So this is just an example. I'll just send up a couple of tank units. We can send up this pioneer unit. We can send up some artillery that can sit at range. And move it enough that can engage in that battle. A good tip in the Army General is to pay attention to the different colors. So you can see that there is like a lighter red and a darker red. The lighter red, if it is lighter red, it will allow you to make another action in the same turn. So in this case, all of these units are going to be able to attack the 11th Armoured Cav because they are, well, because they didn't use all of their action points, basically. So that's something to definitely pay attention to. For example, we can move up the Aufkleider Battalion here.
Bad Hersfeld gehört uns. Wir sind bereit für den Vormarsch nach Alsfeld.
And that's going to allow us to capture that objective. But ultimately, what we're going to want to do is try and fit in maybe this unit so that we can select this, prepare an attack, bring in our tanks by right-clicking. We'll bring in the pioneers as our auxiliary. We'll bring in this artillery unit here that is in range. And we can also choose to bring in some aircraft if we like. So for example, these MiG-23s would be fantastic for taking out armor since they have these KH-23M electro-optical anti-tank missiles. We could also opt to go for the MiG-21s, but since there's no cluster or AT planes there, it's definitely better in this case to be using the JBG unit. So you can auto-resolve this, which would end up in a draw, and then it will randomly decide which units have been destroyed from both sides. You can also press Tactical Battle and jump in and play it manually. That's exactly what we'll do. You can select certain battalions to be under control of AI. You can also change the outfit of these battalions. So say if you want to control parts of the Pioneer Regiment but not other parts, then you can give the AI certain parts of it rather than the whole thing. And it will give the AI a equivalent section of the command points per minute so that it can bring in those units. But we're going to keep it under our control and we'll tactical battle jump on in. So here we are on the battlefield. We can see that there are 3 objectives on this one. We have Anna, Boris and Center. By capturing these, we will increase our team score. The enemy have morale. We both have morale. You can see their morale is significantly lower than ours because we outnumber them massively. If we destroy 100 points worth of units, they will instantly lose the game. So that's what we're going to try and do in this one. I do have some tricks up my sleeve in order to do this. In the Pioneer Regiment here, we have access to these BM-21 napalm launchers, which are extremely good. So we're going to try and make good use of those. But first of all, we're going to want to get our tanks in position. So let's bring up all of these T-55s and we'll rush towards this bridge here. I'm going to do the same on the right hand side, although it might be a bit harder to do so because this is way more open. So the best way to deal with that would probably be using smoke. Let's just make sure that I have all of the T-55s that I can bring to help us out along the way. In the center, I'm probably going to deploy Mod Schützen, and we're going to put them into the heavy cover here so that we can defend against tanks getting too close. And I'll also bring in some tanks that can maybe ambush at close range. That's also going to include a leader, symbolized by the star with the circle around it. If you played WARNO and you're wondering how I'm giving orders so quickly, if you have multiple units of the same type selected, either by double clicking or by selecting a group, you can press tab to scroll through them. It's such a good tip that I really wanted to include in this video. And by doing that, I can press tab, I can press Y, which is unloaded position, press tab, press Y, unloaded position, and I'm left clicking to set those orders, and that's now given each of those a separate order. And when you get into the habit, you can do it really fast. So we're going to spread out, see how we get on. And as we bump into enemy forces, we're going to want to unleash the BM-21 napalm grads on their heads. So let's go ahead and launch. I did neglect recon. I'm hoping that's not going to bite me, but we shall see. Speed things up. Definitely get these ones on the right underway. Speed controls are up in the top right here. We can go to 3 times speed. We can go to 2 times speed. There's normal speed, and then there's half speed and pause. On the left, you can see that the opponents have already captured that, and they're starting to come across the bridge. So I'm going to unload these early because we can see that there are enemies heading our way. These Bradleys are doing a lot of damage to us already. Going to put some artillery on that left hand side. We'll also put some artillery on the bridge. And if we slow it down or even pause, we'll be able to zoom in and have a look at the action as it gets underway, which is a very, very cool thing to do. Something I would definitely recommend taking advantage of. We can even come back here and take a look at the launchers firing out of the trees. All in awesome slow-mo. I'm going to stay at close range here. We'll get an AT plane to come in and help out. We've managed to come through here on the right hand side, which has worked out very nicely indeed. The planes flying around, ready to engage. Next thing I'm going to want to do is make sure that I capture this objective. And we'll want to use cover here to move up the tanks. Because currently we can't see into the tree line due to our lack of recon, which is something that I thought might bite me and I probably should have anticipated. As soon as we see an enemy unit, we can hit it with the MiG-23. Meanwhile, let's keep bringing in the T-55s. If you're wondering how my T-55 automatically smoked, it's because in my rules of engagement I have out of range reaction set to defensive, something I'd recommend for newer players. Enemy F4F hanging out. It's going for my T-55. I'm going to get it to use its smoke if I can. Didn't manage to do so in time. We'll want to invest in some anti-air in order to stop that from being a problem in the future. I can also get my MiG-23 to engage this with its main gun. It might be able to get on the back of it. The trouble with the MiG-23 is it has a pretty slow turning circle. But if it gets onto the tail, it might be able to do the job. That being said, it ran out 23mm cannon ammo. So let's keep things sped up. They have also lost almost half of their morale. If I continue to kill off their units, then that will continue to go down as well. By holding C, I'm bringing up the line of sight tool. It's really, really useful to know. I'm going to try and hit the units on this left hand side there with these napalm strikes. It's another great tip, especially for newer players. Always make sure to move your artillery after it fires. There we have it. That is victory, a total victory, after 18 minutes and 25 seconds. So of course I sped it up. I have a lot of experience in this game. I probably made that look very easy, but hopefully this gives you a good idea of how the Army General works. When we exit out of this, we'll be given a report on the battle. We'll see that the 11th Armoured Cavalry here is now fatigued. If they lose another battle, that will be absolutely disastrous for them. Once you've played out all the battles and moved all your men, you can click next turn. If you want to make sure you don't have any troops that haven't been moved yet, you can click this button, which will take you to the next unused unit to make sure that, especially during the larger campaigns, that you don't miss anything as you move on. Now let's jump over to Skirmish, which is also very similar to setting up a multiplayer lobby. In this case, we're going to be joined by 3 medium AI on my team, 4 medium AI on the enemy team, and I'll set it to a pretty big map. Let's go to Dark Stream. This is a very big map. And we'll choose the 24th Infantry Division. This is the official battle group, so you guys should have the same one if you want to use it. We'll leave it on night default. Night maps are absolutely awesome in this game. The lighting is incredible, so definitely worth checking out. And this is going to work similar to the way that the campaign tactical battles work, except both sides start much more evenly. You can see that the AI has automatically deployed. If you place down units early on, then they won't place units near your units. in case you want to play around a specific side of the map. In this case, I'm just going to throw together some Abrams. We'll get things underway, and I can even show off a bit of advanced deployment here by placing my M3A1 Bradley that far forwards. Let's not forget AA. Bring up a couple of chaparrals. But otherwise, 4 Abrams, Bradley Recon, 2 chaparrals is a good start up against medium AI. I've also brought in a field supply point. Field supply points in multiplayer, useful in 3v3, well, probably 2v2, 3v3, 4v4 and 10v10, not so much in 1v1. If you're going to plan to play 1v1, I wouldn't recommend adding FSPs to your divisions. You'll see as we get underway, the AI is going to be engaging. We get some awesome cinematics as a helicopter gets shot out the sky by the Tunguska. Got a MiG-29 coming over to engage the F4F. Shilka down here taking out the Gazelle, everything going on. And if you want to have time to admire this in the future, what you can do is open up the replay and take a look. I'm going to press B to launch my smoke on this Bradley so that it can get away from the T-64 BB. We'll keep the chaparrals back and allow the Abrams to charge forwards and engage that. My M1A1 or M1IP Abrams here has captured this sector at Delta, which is pretty important. In order to win, we basically need to control more sectors than the enemy and use the points that those sectors give us. For example, Delta gives us 1 point per tick to increase our score on the right here. Whoever reaches the score limit first wins, which in this case is 2,000 points. My Abrams are firing away, trying to take out the T-64 BV. Just lost a side panel there on one of the Abrams, very cool detail. There goes the BV. Let's continue onwards. We'll keep the M3A1 Bradley relatively close. Going to bring in some supply to fix these up on the go. Oh, my M1IP showed side armor because we got attacked by the Malyutka of the BMP-1 on the left-hand side here. We did, however, manage to catch out the T-80B as it tried to retreat. And it looks like my Bradley landed the shot onto the BMP-1. And there we have it. So you can either win by score, or you can win by having more score than your enemy when the timer ends. In this case, total victory in 22 minutes, 38 seconds. Once again, I just sped it up and played it out so that you guys can get a taste of what the skirmish is like. In multiplayer, it can get very, very awesome, particularly in 10v10 where things can get wild with the sheer amount of units on the map. Finally, in the deeper dive of the single player section, we'll have a look at the operations, and I'm going to jump into Black Horse's Last Stand. If you'd like to read the description on this right hand side, feel free to pause, but we're going to be selecting Elite Difficulty and we'll jump on in. There's even more detail about what we're going to potentially come up against and the objective of this mission. Let's proceed, where it will show us the units that we'll have at our disposal. If we click on them, it will come up with all of the information panel similar to the armory. In this case, we're going to be getting a nice mix of American units, some German units, and also, oh, look at those beautiful A10s.
Commander, the Soviet spearhead is almost upon us. We must quickly set up our new headquarters in Bad Orb. A command vehicle needs to establish contact with the town. You must protect it at all costs. You can only deploy ground and air reinforcements once in control of Bad Orb. Bundeswehr reserves are on their way to support us. You must delay the enemy offensive until they arrive. The enemy will engage you as soon as you deploy your forces. Expect heavy enemy armor, mechanized infantry, and helicopter support. Organize your defense as best you can, and most importantly, hold Bad Orb. Good luck, Commander.
As you can see, the operations are a lot more scripted. They have specific zones that you have to control. In this case, it's just telling us that we need 2,800 conquest points to be victorious. And logistics wise, we won't be able to deploy or sell units until Bad Orb is under our control. Once this happens, fresh ground units and air support will become available. So the first thing we need to do is protect the command vehicle getting back to Bad Orb. We can deploy here with it. So that's what we're going to be doing. I will bring up some PVADs to help defend from the air. We'll bring up the M1A1 Abrams.
This war will be over by Christmas.
I should probably bring up, let's see, we'll do 1 PVADs and maybe 2 standard M1A1s.
Any order, sir?
Difficult not having many points to work with. Tell you that much. We'll grab a grenade launcher Humvee as well. Alright, let's keep the PVADs near the Abrams.
We need to redeploy to Bad Orb ASAP. Cover us.
We'll see that there is some scripted artillery coming in, smashing the ground here in front of our tanks. If I happen to have a infantry unit or even a tank unit nearby that, it's still going to take damage.
Waiting for instructions, sir. All units, enemy sight. Enemies in sight.
Going to be very much up to my PVADs to stop a lot of this stuff. Currently trying to run back. Once it gets to Bad Orb, we can bring in reinforcements, but for now,
Waiting for order.
just got to defend with what we have.
Spotted. Roger. Search and destroy.
A bunch of helicopters trying to chase down the M577. We're taking care of those. Now there's a couple of ATBs coming. Let's just take one out. Oh, we got a fuel explosion. That's bad timing.
All ammo spent.
Got a good shot off though.
I'm listening.
Now we need to fall back. Poor Humvee got hit.
I hear you loud and clear. Enemy spotted.
The trouble with the Humvee being hit is we kind of lost our eyes.
Waiting for instructions. Damn, that's close. Oh.
Nice shots though.
Watch our flanks. Yes, Captain. Successful hit. All ammo spent. Enemy spotted.
PVADs needs to do its work. Wonderful. Captured the second objective here. Thankfully it was just an MI8 recon that managed to get through.
This is Red 2. Enemy spotted. Waiting for instructions.
This is Saber 6. The order came through. We must defend Bad Orb at all costs. We can now call in A-10. Let's use these tank busters wisely. Saber 6 out.
Tank ready.
What I would like is some supply.
Fall back. I hear you loud and clear.
And I'd also like
Spotted.
some Bradleys.
At orders.
Great side shot there.
Halt! Move, but watch our flanks.
Because those tanks have no recon, it's very easy to catch them out.
Daddy to Red Leader. I'm listening. It's hot here! Halt! Gun checked and ready. Reverse, but keep facing the enemy. What are your orders?
Nasty rocket artillery coming in. Might actually take out the PVADs.
Waiting for instruction. At your orders. Move, we're awaiting. This is Red 2.
I'm going to try and meet my M1A1s further back with the supply chain.
Waiting for instruction. Right. Waiting for instruction. Target down.
Wonderful. Let's take out the next MIA.
The enemy is cut to pieces.
Perfect.
What do you need, Captain?
This is Red 2. Enemy spotted. Waiting for instructions.
Yes, Captain.
I hear you loud and clear.
We're coming up on meeting the conquest requirements.
Success, sir. The enemy attack has petered out. We held the line. Saber 6 out.
And there we have it. 3,800 kills, 770 losses. Operation success in 13 minutes and 51 seconds. Make sure to give it a go yourself, see how you get on. Maybe try and beat my time on elite difficulty. The key for this one is making sure you have at least one AA piece there at the start, otherwise you will get overwhelmed by helicopters. So just a quick tip there for Black Horse's last stand. And there we have it. Hopefully this guide will get you started in WARNO or encourage you to buy it. It is a fantastic game that's gone through 2 years of early access and has only improved the entire time. So much more content now. The campaigns are incredible. The unit fidelity and graphics are incredible. The community is super passionate about this game. I'd recommend jumping onto Eugen Systems Discord if you'd like to get more involved in that. With all that said, I hope you consider buying WARNO, and if you already have, I hope you have a great time. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.